Okay, I'm going to just wait a few minutes, see if people are coming in. Smell something. It's nothing on my end. Okay, just wait for a few minutes. I just want to start off with a disclaimer. I'm gonna just turn off the light. Just hold on a minute. Alright, so I just wanted to start off with just a caveat here. The views and opinions are mine, and I'm not intending to violate any policies. However, some of the topic matters are current events related, and it's merely just information of the audacity of said rhetoric. I don't endorse those views. I'm just trying to underscore the issues. So if there's any AI bots or someone that flags this as misinfo, I'm by no means encouraging that there's nuance, and I'm just trying to relay information that is out in the ether, and it's the empath brigade where I'm just trying to call out BS. Even if the First Amendment isn't valued anymore, and even though this is a private platform, so to speak, it's not that I'm trying to do anything nefarious. Of course, the people that are trying to do the right thing, responsible speech, are the ones that tend to be statistically punished. So, anyways, I just thought I'd get that out there. So where have I been? I was supposed to like wrap this platform down. I was kind of part of it was I was getting I got blocked on Facebook on another Facebook page. I was blocked my hopeless autistic fan page. They don't want to be challenged. They just anytime you question them, they'll block you. So I'm like, I also wanted to get an audience that wasn't all male, because YouTube is a masculine platform, and I felt like I needed to get a wider audience because I knew that as the year was ending, it was going to get pretty bad. So a couple of things I wanted to write on my website at clickfo.me/hopelessautistic was my family, my paternal family. I've been told the story about how my paternal family found me and then just abandoned me a year later, which would mark the 5-year mark this coming week. It was actually late November, so it would have been next week, for, the 23rd. I want to encapsulate that story. I don't know how to do it. I want to write it, and I haven't written that. The other thing was there's a story about a cutie. I not shared that story to you folks because to me, I didn't think it was a story until the fourth occurrence, and the fourth occurrence, well, let me reframe it. The third occurrence was really the fourth visit at the hotel out on the coast, and that was very I've said a little bit already, so you guys kind of know what I'm talking about, but I thought I'd write it out so it'd be more clear, because I don't know how to express feelings of that nature because it's not encouraged and stuff like that. So those are things I want to write up. Those two things. I wanted to wrap it up the first one was gonna be how my paternal family found me, and the happily ever after not kind of a tone. So just pay attention to it. It might come in December because the drama went into December and into 2020, and then the pandemic happened. And yeah, so that's something I've been wanting to write about my paternal family and how being an Asian autistic, it sucks. I just wish I could genetify myself so I don't look like a Japanese weirdo. So and I'm just having this flashback as I'm recalling it about being hoovered into the drama, because there was a lot of toxic narcissism, particularly in my aunt and my father, for that matter. And so, just reminding it just gave me like a flashback. So that's what I was gonna write about. So it's only been 2 weeks. Well, no, it will be 2 weeks on Tuesday, but roughly, 12 days since the election, believe it or not. I talked about the state stuff last Wednesday when I was in this cold I've been having. It's just a runny nose, and I've not had decent sleep we're going on the 3rd week. It started about probably the day before Halloween. Just not getting any good sleep. So I tried melatonin, because my sleeping pill I had to refill it. It's a PRN, so I had 2 refills, but they expire if I don't refill it in time, and it expired on the 24th. And I was making a call on last weekend, which would have been the 7th or the 6th. No. 7th or the 8th. I can't even count right now. It's just, because today's the 15th. No, today's the 16th. Damn, I can't even do math. Yeah, 16th. So last week was the last Saturday when I was trying to call, or even maybe Friday the 7th. Anyways, I can't do my math right now. No, Thursday was the 7th. It's been a long month. Let me tell you, Thanksgiving's gonna be coming up in a week and a half. Week and 3/4. It's like we're not less than 2 weeks of Thanksgiving. And just last Wednesday, we had an 80-degree read. And today was near 60 with a wind chill. It was a little bit chilly, but if you were outside, it was a little too warm for me. Come on. And we had some wildfires all over New England and in the New York region as well. So I was like, can we just get some rain or snow or something? Can we just how can you miss summer when summer doesn't go away? You can't miss it. It's always there, right? Gotta appreciate the good times and then weather the bad times. People just want it sun, green, and blue all the time. It's not healthy for you. Snow all the time not good for you either. But that's just me. The inner child must be kicking. It always kicks in during the wintertime. So anyways, so the election is coming on. It's not been, not even, 13 days after the election. And there is some leftists that are owning up. Are acknowledging faults. I've watched some podcasts that had Marianne Williamson, who was, she ran in 2020, tried to run in 2024. The story of how she got kind of silenced by the so-called establishment, in her words, was very telling. And how the Bernie Bros kind of stole her thunder, literally, and they played dirty on that side. Let me put it this way: the Democrats basically gave Trump the election. They basically elected him through proxy of animosity towards their own base. I'm just gonna be honest with that, and I was very disappointed. Like, because the days that followed, the red wave that the right has been wanting to have their panties in a bunch and dampened, the red wave that they've been like dreaming about happened this year, not in 2020, not in 2018, and not even 2016. It happened in 2024. So, and in terms of the congressional districts as well, the congressional and Senate, I mean, any around state houses or state capitals, they gotten a lot of seats. And when you see that the counties in Florida and even California, you know, from the last presidential election, it went from blue to red. And some counties went more red than others, and maybe because people moved out of the bigger states. But it's not just Trump. Like, we need to stop figuring. People need to stop, you know, focusing on just him because it's Trumpism. This is the first presidency where full-blown Trumpism is going to happen. You've seen Tulsi Gabbard going to be the Secretary of Defense. You have Bobby Kennedy Jr., who's really just an ambulance chaser, running HHS, and Pete Hegseth. I mean, that weirdo. I've always thought he was weird. With the skinny ties, this big muscular guy on the weekends on the Searchlight News Channel with skinny ties. Just like, he doesn't know how to look good. But I'm not. What do I know? And so it's just, you're just putting TV stars. I mean, Laylo Kudlow's gonna probably get a gig somehow. You know, he was, let's see, the national economic guy before he joined the Searchlight Business Channel. Be nice to get rid of him at 4 o'clock so they can actually cover the closing bell and not the way CNBC does it, to be quite honest. Liz Claman should get another hour, like she did before. And so, yeah, I wonder what's going to happen with him. So you're putting a lot, again, similar thing. You're just putting people that are on TV. You're going to get the loyalists. You're going to get the diehards. You're going to get the people that are going to say yes to him. And, you know, that's what's going to happen. We're already kind of seeing this. And the thing that has bothered me the most, and I didn't vote for anybody because I didn't for president because I really didn't care about the federal, because I didn't care either way. If it was going to go to Kamala or if it was going to go to Donald Trump, I was going to handle it because I've been through so much polarization. But President-elect Trump is, and this is the thing that got me, was like Patty Boyd David was on Jillian Michaels' podcast, and it was recorded on the 1st, so that Friday, and so he was saying that if Trump gets elected, you know, J.D. Vance will get another 8 years. We'll get 4 years Trump, J.D. Vance for another 8 years, and maybe another Republican for another 4, and you get 20 years of, you know, Republican power. Not like Rhino or moderate Republican, which is not a bad thing. I don't care about using the word Rhino or even Dino for that matter on the other side. And I don't think this is good because then that means more conservative judges, more partisan people, because all the left does it, so we're going to do the same thing. I'm like, no. So I think it's a problem. But one of the things that bugged me the most is when because I've heard the audio clip from Bobby Kennedy. I've heard it on the John Oliver you know, last week tonight. Was it a few months ago? But I thought the clip that they played was from the summertime, but it turned out it was last year. And because they Chiron on the upper left, Joe Rogan Experience, in parentheses 2023. The reason being because Joe Rogan had uploaded the interview or the episode on the YouTube channel, and it was posted this summer. So at some point, it was not recent, but still, it's still recent to me because it's the rhetoric has been intensifying of an anti-neurologically different mindset, and he said something to the fact of when we were kids, that autism wasn't pervasive. You didn't have these full blown autism, as he was saying, with the kids banging their heads, wearing helmets, and that's what he said on. And then John Oliver, his show, took that cut, and then he countered it with a TikToker that it was freaking hilarious. I loved it. I loved it so much. Because it's not about it's not destigmatizing autism. You're just treating that the individuals don't exist, and you don't do that with cancer patients or people that are suffering with cancer. We don't stigmatize the individual because they love to make this a medical thing, right? So the person that's got cancer, you don't treat the patient like they're subhuman, like an alien. And that's what I've heard with Kennedy's rhetoric of late. Now, of course, I told this to my mother recently. She wasn't aware of the Joe Rogan interview where he, said that the whole full-blown autism BS. And so he said, well, wouldn't you feel more relieved that it was the coloring in the M&Ms that might have... I'm like, that's one way to shut up a child's concern. Your child's not as hysterical as like a leftist type, but I'm concerned about my existence through the policies. And I understand you're trying to flip the narrative, but it's like false equivalencies. And my mother's an Xer, and I think something that we should learn from this election. This was Gen X's first election, because Gen X was just, goofing around in the 90s. They were having babies, raising the kids, working their butts off in the aughts and the teens. And now they came out. And they came out with true colors that they really are maggots and right-wing nut jobs. And it was kind of believed that Gen Xers leaned conservative in the research leading up to the 2016 election, but there wasn't a lot of confirmation. And I think some Xers did vote, and they did vote red, and they might, this is also the same generation of the Karen generation, okay? These entitled middle-aged people that are advocating too much. And I think they're worse than boomers. I think they're the worst type of narcissists, other than malignant narcissists, because I think the covert / vulnerable narcissist is very evident with actors. Because here's the way I would characterize covert narcs, is that particularly in the last 4 years, particularly around COVID, when everything was crazy during the pandemic era, right? They take inconveniences and conflate them as injustices. They had used rhetoric that was used during the 2020 protests, and then try to weaponize it to get even to own libs, right? They had not gone through as much challenges as those groups of people have, or even people like me for that matter. This is also the generation that claims that their kid has autism. It's the end of the world. I need your sympathy. The Housewives, the Carrie Cariello, the Age of Autism, Kim Rossi Stagliano, that bimbo. She's hot though, but she's a bimbo. And just simping for money, because a lot of these people are, they want their money to capitalize on their kids' injustice, right? A lot of victimization. Again, Gen X, like Jenny McCarthy, the anti-vaxxer that she is, she's X, right? People grew up watching her on MTV. Not my generation, but the Xers were. Because remember, the Xers came to age in the 90s. Millennials came to age in the late aughts, so that gives you that 15-year gap between the Xers and the millennials. I do think some millennials lean right. It's hard to tell because no one's focusing on the millennials, even though there's 100 million of us, right? I think millennials are kind of more or more moderate compared to the female lefty Gen Zs and the far right, you know, barely young men Zoomers. So I think millennials might sway, but they're not going to sway dark red or dark blue or whatever. That's from what. But millennials are really like, I wouldn't say to keep to themselves like Xers. I think millennials are in general very emotionally unavailable, well into their 30s and early 40s. They are selfish, but I mean they're just annoying. They're not like some might be malignant narcs, or some might be covert, but I just think that covert narcissism is really like irritating than any of the other narcissistic type or antagonistic. I mean, that's what I get every on Gen X. But the other thing too that I would look at with with particularly the liberal group. Okay, so now I'm gonna switch gears a little bit and focus on the why the Democrats lost. The Democrats didn't lose. They didn't lose per se. I think they just basically let people just vote for Trump, their proxy. They just basically didn't get enough votes because they just turned them off. Like, that's how I look at it right now. I mean, it's been like a week and a half. I'm trying to like marinate these thoughts before I like wanted to comment on it. I just really felt like the Democrats didn't have a solution. Trump had a solution, and so they voted with basically outsourcing the votes. Like, that's how I feel. Like the Democrats weren't even there. Okay, not to mention just how they handled Joe Biden and how he dropped out after the primaries and not giving enough chance. I mean, Kamala burning a lot of the money, that was pretty bad. My view on the left is I don't like to call the liberals and put these people into negative groups. I don't like that. I don't think tax and spend liberals in the proper noun sense. I think it's really childish. But I think what people don't like about them is not only they're elite, they seem to be sunny, they also don't think concretely. They have a philosophical mindset. They have like this lofty, very like big picture, mindset. But they also like to debate things. They like to challenge people's views. And I think that is part of antagonistic personalities, kind of in a way. It's a little gaslighting, a little narcissism, and I don't like that. And I knew people that were very academic, collegiate type, where there's this like bro culture. They're very lefty, but they're very like almost like Me Too types. And they have this infantile worldview that we need to challenge these ideas that you need to be challenged, Stephen. You've been rewarded for having your own views, blah 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 blah. And I think the word challenging is gotten to the point where it's one of the dirty words, literally. And I used the other one repeatedly during this election season with Kelly. And but that it is. It really, we need to stop using this word challenging, because what we're doing, what they didn't do was they didn't acknowledge the concerns, just like how my mother was just dissing me with my concerns with Bobby Kennedy Jr.'s rhetoric, but in a different way. They didn't understand that the trans issues, blowing up abortion, for example, blowing that up turning everything up past 11, but past 22, and blow it with this like loud agenda. Turn people off because it's like, that's not my issue right now. Even people that are functioning lefties, there are progressives that have a day job and stuff like that. There's some good progressives out there, but they couldn't understand that everyone's hurting with this inflation. Everyone's hurting on this. They just keep saying, well, you need to worry about abortion. If you're not for abortion, you're anti-woman attitude. And they didn't understand that because that's what Obama did with Obamacare and slash Affordable Care Act was they just force this down you, and it's like a cookie cutter policy that doesn't have nuance to people that are multi-dimensions, because we are multi-dimensions. Look at me, even I struggle as an artist to try to do multi-dimensions. It's not, there's nuance, shapes, and like my eyes, my lovely Japanese eyes have a certain dimension, but my head is round. My nose is closer to the camera than my eyes. I do have a big nose. That's from my father. Thank you very much. Right? So we're all this multi-dimensions, and it's really ironic because the far right doesn't believe in dimensions, and the far left doesn't believe in dimensions. There's no nuance to anything. And it's really fucking hilarious because people like me are often blamed for having black and white rigid views. And that really sucks. And it really sucks because it just demoralizes people like me. And demoralizes me to see how a party just completely pissed on themselves. It's disgusting to see how a unique kitty party, that's what I call it, not a unique party, unique kitty because I'm a Lego movie fanboy, and that character was like a hot-headed, like, no, I'm gonna get angry, and but the unit party, it's like the Trump party is not even that either. It's a mix of oligarchs. There's a mix of regular folks and alike. It's not this. It's really a multidimensional party. But are they looking up for our own interests and heart? That's the problem I have with. The other thing too, the whole Project 2025, which was blown way out of proportion. The Project 2025 was a concern, but the more progressive wing on the left just again amped it past 11 and hit 22 and blew that down the drain. Because what's really interesting was that Agenda 47. Okay, I just heard this like maybe a week before the election. At the Madison Square Garden, on the the lower west side, excuse me, on the corner of 34th and 7th, right? If I got the just walked by MSG multiple times during my trip in Manhattan 7 years ago. Okay, that alone, that was blown out of proportion too. They were comparing it to the 1939 Nazi gathering, which Tara Palmieri, another blow-headed millennial journalist, was having literally a hysterical moment like before the election because she was on with Katie Couric and she was literally like playing with her phone trying to get the phone in place. She wasn't even prepared to go on with Katie Couric, and just she's my age, I think, Tara, and I'm like, I hate my own generation because these people can't even try to have professionalism. I'm not saying that there were certain parts because I wasn't there, so I don't know who was there. What were they dressed up as? Were they dressed like the Ku Klux Klan, or what? I don't know. Okay, but elevating something to that level has to have justification, and I it was a shit show. Okay, that that no-name comedian that was niche in the conservative world, just like there's niche comedians on the left too. You know, calling Puerto Rico a dumpster or whatever the hell. I mean, that is our territory. What the right? Just xenophobia. I wouldn't say racism because that word has been used way too much. Do I believe there was xenophobia that has been apparent for the last decade? Hell yeah. I think that word should be used more often. But Tara was having like a panic attack. Like she was panicking. I'm like, you're a fucking journalist, miss. Why are you putting conjecture in this? Like, I think she works for Puck. No kidding. That's literally a news organization. And a digital platform. And it's like you're showing your bias, you know. Yes, is Trump an autocrat? Fuck yeah, but do you go down the extremes and start comparing the MSG to the 1939 rally that was at another location? Because the MSG, the current one, was built in the 70s. The one that they gathered, almost a century ago, was across the street because I think it was at Penn Station, if I'm not mistaken, where Penn and Madison Square Garden were in the same vicinity, just like the Boston Garden was. It was like the train station was next to the arena. So comparing, it's like comparing an Apple, IBM PC to an Apple One. I mean, they're different. It's not even an Apple and a PC. It's literally an Apple One and an IBM PS2 for that matter. They're not the same. In my opinion, politically too. So there's just so much that I can unpack here that the left really, and I don't think they're going to learn anything. As I did in my taped video the other day, it's insanity. It's the insanity. The definition is repeating the same thing, expecting a different result. I don't think they're going to learn. Part of me thinks it's going to be an autopsy. Then another part of me is like, what's the point? They're that delusional. And then the problem is the manosphere, the red pill, it's just going to funnel, and it's going to go up. And the podcasters really creamed the media. Like when Kennedy said it last year about the podcast was going to be one that's going to elect the presidency, he wasn't kidding. I mean, the views that Rogan got, and not just Rogan, but Mr. Lisa Bleu, Patty Boy David, and the 7 dwarfs, or maybe the 14 dwarfs, gotten more views than the mainstream press did. Which, again, podcasts are more lower than talk radio. Okay, talk radio is dying. They are. I mean, you can't say it because of government regulations or just Rush Limbaugh dying, Michael Savage retiring, Dennis Miller I think retired several years back. It's it's a lot of work to do talk radio, and Howie Carr is really a shadow of his former self. I mean, I've been listening to his show since probably the insurrection when I was tuning in that day. Howie's very predictable, much more predictable than say 20 years ago. So that's just my thoughts on that. So I think there's something to be said with this. Again, the conservatives got really lucky. The timing, the timing is everything, and they've been wanting this for decades of superiority, control, and etc. And they kind of got what they wanted. Now, are they, should I be careful what they wish for? Perhaps, because you're gonna have to keep up this momentum. Because remember, the love bombing of Trump by the media was kind of disrupted in the midterms in 2018. And then they had to go back into warrior mode to fight against AOC, which again, you don't have to like her policies, but they were attacking her personally because she was probably young and attractive, and they felt threatened, so they were just trying to like make her look like the villain and everything. I don't like the Hollywoodification of the politics, or even just the sensationalism in the Fox News channel for the last 15 years. How they, the guy from Channel 7, Joel Cheatwood, he was the guy that created the local tabloid news format in Miami, here in Boston, New England, and New York. But one of his last, like, career, I don't know, I think he's probably retired at this point. I know he lives in Connecticut because I saw his name on the NAB show in 2019. The NAB pack, just literally an NAB pack. And I saw his name representing Connecticut. So that's how I knew he was from, or still on the East Coast. But he was at the Fox News channel consulting for FNC right around the 08 election. And you could see like the 7 News format going into, cable news. And when you mix politics, like a very highly esteemed stuff, and then blue collar, if it bleeds, it leads, literally, and you mix those two together, that's one way to kill democracy. Not saying that there's nothing wrong doing it on local news, but when you're doing it on cable news and you're putting politics and blood and guts, figuratively, of course. Although wasn't there like who was it? Someone got randomly murdered. There was someone like not an informant. It was well, I forget. There was somebody had gotten murdered, and Fox News went crazy with that. It was a political. It was down in DC, and I forget, because there's so many of these little random scandals that gets put around, and I just can't keep track of every little thing. But it's almost, again, very sensationalized, and I don't believe in sensationalizing political stories. That's just not me. I think it really it really muddied the waters in the political system. I thought with the Fox News show was really notorious, and again, they just do a correlation, causation kind of a thing. But yeah, that was it's been a really long decade and a half, because it really started after 08 or around 08, and it's just like festering, particularly the Tea Party upbringing, which really got the worst of people. Again, it just led to this idea that Caucasian people. This is another thing I wanted to say too, and I wanted to keep it very like flowing, but not trying to like have too much dead air. But one of the things that I was going to mention, and I'm remembering it now, is this whole Dr. Phil was saying this during the campaign of meritocracy. Okay, because his cable channel is Merit Street Media, right? Okay, if you really believe in meritocracy, then why are you guys acting a bunch of sissies when more people are trying to get to that job? And if they're not allowed to be showing their competency, because they like to cover that only competent people, only the best, right? Okay, but if you're not allowing them, if you're kind of putting implicit barriers, how is that merit? So I think meritocracy is a myth. There's someone that wrote a book about this, that meritocracy back in the mid-60s or the mid-century was really just the people that were going to the Ivy Leagues for rich white kids that didn't have the merit to go into Harvard or any of the other universities in Middlesex County. And, that was meritocracy at the time. There's a lot of hypocrisy, particularly on the right and particularly on social conservatism, that I can go on for days and months and years. I don't need to do this in one video or a live stream for that matter. I could go on and take one little snippet and just gab about it for 20 minutes. It's really a problem. I want to close up because I'm going up against I'm still trying to recover from my cold here, and I haven't talked in like a while. So the last thing I wanted to say was the hashtag that's in the title of this video. Hopefully you can get to see this. Hopefully I didn't trigger anybody or bots or stuff like that. But again, these are not my own opinions. I'm not trying to amplify it. I'm just trying to highlight, try and put a light on the subject, hoping it will kill the bacteria of the misinformation or perceived misinformation. The hashtag, they don't want us to exist. This is a hashtag I used on Facebook after the Bobby Kennedy remarks, and Bobby Kennedy has found any little way to say, when I was a kid, there's no ADHD, no neurological, blah, 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 blah. Okay, this is what the theme is, okay? And I want to make this very centered because I did, when I created the blog 9 years ago, the original, title, not the URL, but it was 2020 Hopeless Autistic 2020 year. Something, it was tweaked over the time. I didn't think about the national ramifications because it was, before Trump. It was right when Trump was torching everyone on the GOP to kind of get in. But this phrase I'm using here is something I did not have on my bingo card then. Didn't have my bingo card in 2020, but more on the 2024 bingo card. But when you win the array, what's that prize, right? Or what are you gonna lose, right? you might have to surrender something. What I didn't realize when all the different things were in the rhetoric, the dehumanization, the stigmatizing the individual, not the problem, finding the root cause, and trying to combat this like it were some foreign adversary. It's very dehumanizing, and it really has made me consider what's the next 10 years of my life going to be. I already entered 2024 feeling devalued, demoralized, depleted from the previous 6 to 10 years of pain before. I go into 2024 and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And this has been a really rough time, and I like I said, a lot of people are grieving, a lot of people are angry, a lot of people are going through emotions. I'm not going to question them, but this one, I feel like I'm being stung because like I said, I started the year with kind of a hopeless feeling. I entered in 2024 thinking it was going to be bad, okay? But I wanted to be wrong. I never want to be right. And April went by and we're not being seen. The summertime, it's just like these people are pesky, but they're not saying it like that. And they just find a way every fucking time to dehumanize us, to sterilize us basically at this point. And it's like, how do you wake up every day? How do you wake up early in the morning wanting to actually stand up straight and put one foot amongst the other and proceed to do this walking thing? I mean, how do you do this? It's like, it does a number to you. It does a number to you. And it's disgusting to see how the low of pains have gone in New Hampshire, my freaking state. And to see the level of dehumanizing, the level of it's okay to have a parent say whatever negative thing about the child and have no accountability whatsoever. And then to be platformed at the largest conference in the state for disability rights or disability policy at this point, because it's all politicized now, to be platformed there. And then to be blocked by many people in New Hampshire on the Facebook fan page. Because they just don't want to deal with me. They want to make me look like I'm the toxic person. That says a lot. It says a lot about the character of the people in the state. Because if I did that to you, you would be calling law enforcement. I mean, most likely. And secondly, it wouldn't be tolerated if I did it. But you can say shit about us. It's like, why do I exist? It's demoralizing. It's like, who's looking out for us? They don't want us to exist. That's why I use the hashtag, because I just feel like that's where we're going. And of course, they tell you to go, kind of fight a resistance or try to fight back. And I'm like, I'm so depleted. I'm so depleted. And so it's really just stigmatizing. It's like, how can you get out of bed every morning and feeling like you value, you matter? When people say that to me, I don't believe it. Because they don't mean what they say. When you really mean what you say, you put conviction. If there's no conviction, I'm not going to believe you. I'm not going to believe in you either. And that's really what 2024 was. It was just the final peg in the system where they don't want us to exist. They want us to, we did these April awareness stuff for many years and, just forget it. And here in New Hampshire, I was on the Zoom call the other night, and they it seems like the direction is towards acceptance in New Hampshire. I don't believe in that, because I don't think there's not enough awareness, or not enough practical awareness to do their job effectively. And for whatever reason, I wake up, I get out of bed, I go out a few days a week, on and off, trying to be valued. The last month, I felt very humbled by two people, Cutie on the Coast and then the Starbucks manager. I didn't tell that story, but that I found out about that about a month ago now. But that was kind of like the stopping point. It was like stopping the bleeding from clotting the bleeding from collateral damage. Because I felt like going into the end of October, I just was like, what the fuck am I doing here? What the fuck am I doing here? What's my purpose? Like, I'm not being valued as as a unique member of society. I'm just looked as lower than. I said it on the Zoom call the other night, fifth class. I remember, I don't think I put it on the blog, but I remember saying fifth class in some capacity, lower than. Not first, second class, third class, fifth class. We're like treated like flies. Flies have more rights in New Hampshire than us. Moose have more rights than us. Bears have more sympathy than us. And it's really, really infuriating. It's demoralizing. And that's what I got in this election not even 2 weeks ago. That's my read. And it's very somber. It's very raw. It's very quiet. Just a lot of myself, just kind of introverting myself from society, because I just feel like I just can't deal with this shit right now. My resiliency has been pushed the last 4 years with the pandemic, and it's it really hurts, because again, it's not Trump that got elected. It was legitimizing Trumpism for at least 4 years, if not more, at least on the presidential side, and potentially the courts and the Supreme Court. And the stuff that they were signaling at the campaign, I'm sorry, it will affect people like me, even people who are higher functioning, even the most functioning member in the resource room type. We're going to get screwed. And I don't think people are aware of the impacts. So, alright, it's 8:58 Eastern Time. It started a little late, so I'm going to sign off now, and see you folks in another video. Hopefully I didn't trigger anything or anybody, but if you want to leave a comment, you can. I did turn off comments in recent videos, but there's a lot to unpack, and I can't do it all tonight. I can't do it. I'll be doing it probably in taped videos throughout into 2025. One other thing about Agenda 47. Treat this as a PS. I wanted to put it in because I think I diverted myself, but the guy that was behind Agenda 47, I think I was about to say it and then I got into a tangent. The guy was Howard Lutnick. And I'm like, that name looks familiar. That face looks familiar. Oh, he was the guy from Cantor Fitzgerald who was the top dog of that company that wasn't in the North Tower on 9/11. And he had a huge hit on humanity as his moral compass, because he was not in the World Trade Center that morning. I think he was bringing his kid to school or something like that, or had some like coffee with somebody, and he wasn't in the tower. And the way that the plane hit the first building, it basically severed the rest of the building in Cantor Fitzgerald, which was, I think, had at least 24 stories. They were on the top, the very top of the World Trade Center. And so people knew that they were going to die, because it severed through the entire building. They could not have escaped. So he was crying on I think ABC News. He was like a few days after the attacks, because Cantor Fitzgerald was essentially, the business was totally disrupted. And the surviving people were, through memory, were able to figure out who the vendors were and to rebuild the company from scratch through brains and brain power, brain trust, and all that. And Lutnick was trying to get a $60 billion loan from the Federal Reserve, which they thought it would topple the economy. Who knew that less than 5 years later, about more than, what was it, 2008, 2001, yeah, 7 years later, the feds would be putting out more money. But it was literally a loan, and Kenneth Fitzgerald went from the top of the world to Midtown Manhattan on near ground. And what Lutnick did was every training day on 9/11, or close to, if it was on a weekend, if 9/11 fell on a weekend, they would do they waive all the commission fees to go to the families of the surviving or the past people, because Lutnick realized he was making promises to his employees, and he neglected to care for them. And to see him go from like a self-centered guy to a selfless guy, to then literally on Madison Square Garden be his kiss up and do like a knockoff of Project 2025 called Agenda 47. It's like he's pre 9/11 self. I was really surprised that he was behind that. So, but again, it shows how Trump can literally weaken people to the best version of themselves to go right back to the worst version of themselves, or even worse than they were. So that was something I wanted to share, because I know that name, and I knew that name, and I knew the story, because it was like, I think on the 10th anniversary, one of the business channels was doing a piece on him, and they were doing a lot of pieces on Kenneth Fitzgerald on the 10th anniversary, because of they were the ones that lost the most people. The company lost the most employees on 9/11. And then there was a very human story where, the I don't think he was the CEO at the time, but he was a high ranking guy, and he neglected to care for his top employees, and then went from selfish to selfless to now see how he's kissing Trump in the ring. So that's my PS there. So I'm gonna wrap this up and see you in another stream, another video, perhaps. Probably more sporadic, but I feel like, given what's going on, I need to keep on going a little bit and talk about the issues that my group and people that can't speak for themselves are going to be up against. So